Hello, I'm Amber Mikkelsen, and today I am presenting Examining the Origin of Island Effects in Complex Sentence Comprehension. My project is an experimental linguistics project. Something experimental linguistics seeks to answer is what types of things speakers of a language know about that language. This knowledge includes which sentence structures sound acceptable to us and which sound bad. In the case of a sentence like John sang to Mary, it sounds acceptable. But in a sentence like John the sang to Mary, it doesn't sound acceptable. We may not always be able to explicitly say why this is, but we know it nonetheless. In addition to knowledge about what types of sentences are acceptable in our language, we may also have knowledge about rules that allow us to do things like form questions. Questions often involve something called movement, in which words are pronounced in a different place than they may be interpreted. We can see this in the example sentence, John sang to Mary. Mary is the object of the verb sang here. But in the question, who did John sing to? Mary is no longer at the end of the sentence. It has moved to the beginning of the sentence and been replaced with the question word who to make a good English question. My project focuses on a special type of linguistic structure called an island. An island is a phrase that forms a relationship between parts of a sentence but does not allow for certain types of movement. An example of an island is the phrase, wondered about that. Here we can see these in two different sentences. An acceptable version of this is, you went home because you wondered about that. There is no movement from out of the island, so it's okay. But in the case of the question, what did you go home because you wondered about? The sentence becomes unacceptable because the word that is moved from outside of the island to the beginning of the sentence and replaced with the word what. This does not form a good question in English because it attempts to move a word from outside of an island. While there is an agreement that sentences like the previous one, which feature movement from out of an island, are bad, there is a debate regarding the reason why. This debate is what my project seeks to inform. On one side of the debate, proponents such as Sprouse and colleagues and Pham and colleagues support grammar-based theories, which posit that innate mental rules disallow these types of sentences, resulting in them being unacceptable. Contrarily, proponents such as Kluender and Kutas and Hofmeister and Sag posit that the combination of the complex island structure itself and the complex movement process in such sentences overwhelms the brain's processing capacity, which results in the unacceptability. There has been a good amount of previous work that attempts to inform this debate as well. One notable contribution for this project is that of Sprouse and colleagues from 2012. In their experiments, they generated sentences that either had a longer or shorter dependency length, and also either had or did not have an island structure. The participants were then asked to rate these sentences on how acceptable they were judged to be, from 1 meaning least acceptable to 7 meaning most acceptable. The researchers also measured participants' processing abilities through working memory tasks. Some example stimuli in the form of weather islands and WH dependencies from the Sprouse experiment can be seen here. These feature weather islands because they feature phrases that start with the word weather and qualify as islands in the island conditions. In the first sentence, who thinks that John bought a car? There is no island structure and there is a short dependency length because the word who starts next to the word thinks and covertly moves to the beginning of the sentence. In a sentence like, what do you think that John bought? The word what begins at the end of the sentence and moves to the beginning of the sentence, creating a long dependency. And there is also no island in this condition. Next, in a sentence like 1C, who wonders whether John bought a car? There is now an island structure because there is the phrase wonders whether John bought a car. But crucially, there is no movement from inside this island. And there is also a short dependency length. And in a sentence like 1D, What do you wonder whether John bought? It is an ungrammatical sentence because there is a long dependency that attempts to move the word what from the inside of the island to the beginning of the sentence. The predictions that Sprouse and colleagues made for this experimental design are as follows. Grammar-based theories would predict that only the ungrammatical island violations should have the extremely low acceptability ratings. So the ungrammatical island violation sentences are like the last sentence that we read, 1D. What do you wonder whether John bought? Additionally, they posit that there should be no correlation between ratings and processing capacity since everyone is born with the same innate mental rules depending on what language they speak. However, proponents of processing theories would predict that ratings should get lower as the sentences get more complex. So, in the case of having no island and a short dependency length, it should be a fairly easy sentence, but they should get more complex to the point that the island and long dependency length should be very lowly rated. And these ratings should also reflect the processing capacity of the people who are judging the sentences. So for speakers and listeners who have more processing power, they are less likely to reject island violations. The results from Sprouse and colleagues are as follows. They found a significant drop in ratings only for ungrammatical island violations. They also did not find a correlation between acceptability ratings and the processing capacities of the participants. These come together to support grammar-based theories. In the graphs, we can see that these ungrammatical island violation type sentences, which are listed as island structure, dotted line, and embedded in each of the four graphs, are by far the lowest rated sentences. My study seeks to build on this experiment by Sprouse and colleagues by keeping similar WH movement sentences and keeping a similar task in which participants will rate stimuli types based on how acceptable they find them to be. But crucially, my project seeks to address a limitation of this design. In Sprouse et al.'s design, both theories, grammatical and processing-based theories, predicted that lowest ratings would occur for the same types of sentences. However, we've added a new condition that provides a clearer test case where grammar-based and processing-based theories can make opposite predictions about. This new condition that we're adding alongside the previous one to compare uses pronouns, which do not use the same type of movement, but still creates a dependency, like in the case of WH dependencies. Here are some example stimuli using pronouns. In 1A, there is no island and it is a short dependency length. Every artist informed his apprentice that a sculpture was installed by the gallery. Here, artist and his form a dependency together, and there's only one word in between them, so it's a pretty short dependency. In the case of 1B, there is still no island, but it's a longer dependency. Every artist informed the gallery that a sculpture was installed by his apprentice. Artist and his have much more words in between them, and so the dependency is longer. In 1C, it is similar to 1A, but now there's the presence of an island. Every artist informed his apprentice if a sculpture was installed by the gallery. Here the phrase, if a sculpture was installed by the gallery, is the island structure. And then lastly, there is an island structure and a long dependency length in the case of 1D. Every artist informed the gallery if a sculpture was installed by his apprentice. Crucially, the difference between these pronoun conditions and the WH conditions is that all sentences are acceptable and grammatically licit, so there is no issue with respect to grammatical innate rules. Predictions for the current study are as follows. Grammar-based theories would predict that sentences with dependencies that span islands will be rated lowly in movement, but not in pronoun sentences. This is because they posit that there are innate mental rules that disallow movement from outside of an island, but do not disallow the use of pronouns inside of an island. However, processing-based theories would predict that island spanning would be rated similarly low for both types. This is because the dependency that is used in the pronoun conditions and the dependency that is used in the WH movement conditions exert similar processing burdens on the brain. Data collection is still ongoing, but once we have the data analyzed, our results can help inform the debate on islands. Which theories better account for the ungrammaticality that results from movement out of islands, grammar or processing-based sources? Further, it can inform what we mentally know about our language in the broad scheme of things. And it can help us decide how much grammar and mental resources can affect our use of language. These are my references. I would like to take the time to acknowledge my mentors, Dr. Robert Fiorentino and Dr. John Gluckman, without which I would not have been able to complete this project. This project was also partially funded by an undergraduate research award from the University of Kansas Center for Undergraduate Research. Thank you.